So, a lot of what mathematics is about is observing patterns and then coming up with a way of describing those patterns so we can predict what will happen in the future. So, for example, here, let's go ahead and say that we're going to choose that our input x is the number of triangles and that our output, which we'll call y, is the perimeter. So for example, in this first one, I have one triangle, and the perimeter of the figure is 2 plus 2 plus 3, or 7. And so what we're looking for is the relationship between that 1 and 7. How can we predict the perimeter based off of the number of triangles? Well, what might help in this case? Hopefully you guessed. Let's draw another example. So if I draw out two triangles this time, and I'm choosing for this problem to draw them this way, so the relationship is of course dependent on the way I'm drawing them, okay? And we figure out that in this case we have two triangles, but we have a perimeter this time of 10. Now, it's difficult to find a relationship based off of just two examples of that relationship. So let's look at a couple more and see if we can find a pattern. So now that we have four examples to look at, let's see if we can kind of figure out what's going on here. Now, one of the first things that we could do is to look at and see what isn't changing. So if you notice in every single one of these examples, we have two 2's. Okay, well that's interesting. So that means that no matter what, our perimeter is always going to have two of those 2's being added to it. And then I notice that I have all these 3's here. Well, looking at the 3's, it looks like I've got one 3 in the figure that only has one triangle. And in the next figure, I have two 3's in the figure that has two triangles. And then I have three 3's in the figure that has three triangles. So hopefully you're noticing the pattern here. The number of 3's that I have is the same as the number of triangles, so I can just multiply it times x. That leaves us with the equation or the relationship, or in fact, in this case, the function 3x plus 4 equals the perimeter, or y equals 3x plus 4. Now, this is a somewhat informal way of doing this. However, it is a way of noticing certain patterns, and before we talk about kind of procedures for this, hopefully we can just start thinking of intuitive ways of identifying patterns and then describing them mathematically.